Hello, beach friends. Normally, this video would be about getting out on a beach and seeing what seashells might be there, which creates the question, what does Charmin do with all the shells she finds? Now, I have made my seashell collection videos in the past, but I realize things change. I move shells around, I change containers, I find new ones, and I'm going to share a little bit more than I have in the past as to where I store some of my shells around my home, because I assume you're interested in seeing the shells, but you're also probably curious as to how I choose to display shells in my home. So for a change, I'm going to share a little bit of that. Now, I personally am very sensitive to over collecting, so I will never have bins of shells tucked away somewhere. I do have one bin put to the side for shells that I do plan on using in the future, but I will show you 99% of my collection, including my organization system for the shells I sell on Etsy. So if you're ready to dive in, let's see some shells. Okay, for the first part of the video, I ran around my house showing you anything I thought you might find interesting. You might have seen this in the past, so I do put air plants in some of the bigger seashells, so that is the way it is. When you walk into my home, I do have this telephone table, and then I have this basket of moon snails. Now, I have said that I sleep with moon snails under my pillow, but that's not true. I usually keep the big ones in this fabulous little bowl, and so all the big ones go in there. Now, across from that, I have this bigger, I just love these like melted glass on wood and just glass wood shells. They deserve to be together. So I have this, of course it's filled with fighting conchs because, you know, I love fighting conchs. So I do have this one big jar, which clearly has a whole lot of room. So I definitely can find more conchs. Yay! Always happy about that. Now we're going to move into my office, where I have done a little bit of decorating, kind of made it something where I'm not ashamed to show you. So I've done a little bit of decorating. I have to show you this. Was in a thrift store and saw this, and I might have left the bowl, but once I realized that that spoon was also made of seashell, yep, that had me. And then on the bottom, there's also, it's kind of stabilized with another little piece of shell. So I am in love with that. Totally not functional. Don't care. Love it. It's only $10. So yeah, a couple other little things smattered around. And I have another shelf in my office, and I've just kind of popped some of the bigger shells up there. Now, this is also in my office. This is one of my prized possessions. This is a printer table drawer, and well, a printer drawer, and I've turned it into a seashell table. I'm looking for another one because I'd like to mount it on the wall, but this one, just kind of putting the finishing touches, and I can switch things around. And then these containers, I put my weird stuff, kind of like my things that are just broken a certain way, or let's see, this turkey wing. So this turkey wing still has its periostracum on it. And that's, I wouldn't want to lose that. Like I kind of want that, I want to be able to access that shell quickly. So those kind of specimens I put in here. Look at that weird lip. Look how thick that is. So I'm not going to pop that in my regular collection. I'm going to kind of keep it in these cases. So when I find something really interesting, it goes in there. And then I have this bowl that I have my two really, really special shells right now. This super spiky crown conch that I got over in Choklockski. And then, of course, my albino fighting conch. So they sit on my desk where I can physically pick them up and touch them as much as I want every day. Yeah, I think that they're great. And maybe they'll get replaced by a different shell. I don't know. Right now, those are my special shells. Now, lately, I've taken a lot more liberty with decorating. So I have put some fighting conchs and some other shells in my bedroom. And I love these containers, the two on the ends, because they have lids. I don't have to dust them as much. So I'm on the hunt now for more containers with lids. I had another one of those melty bowls you saw. This is just a fabulous bowl of shells. They're just great stuff. And then just more seashell related things on that lamp. So I have finally moved shells into my bedroom. This you might have seen. I kind of consider this like a seashell time capsule. I filled this with Florida seashells I got here in Southwest Florida, specifically Fort Myers Beach, many years ago, even before I moved here. So maybe one day I'll open it up. That would be neat to see. And then lastly, at least from stuff around my house, I still have this dough bowl, of course, filled with fighting conchs. Okay, now we're going to get into the part of my collection that I kind of just keep in one section of my home. And I decided to pick the smaller things we have. So where are my Wenzel traps? So I have a couple more, still working on it, but this is where I typically keep all of the Wenzel traps that I find. These are just tinies. Just any particular, it could be, you know, a small species or a seashell that just like there's some little horse conchs in there. So ones that just didn't get too big. I just like the jar. I think it's kind of fun. And then I have this little one too. Again, just little, no rhyme or reason really, just small things there. These are my shark teeth. So all the shark teeth, it's not really that many, but when I collect shark teeth, they go into this little jar. These are little horse conch or pear whelk little babies. So that's what those little babies that did not make it, I got those out of the casings. Of course they were not viable. That's, you know how I roll. Now these, I don't know that I love this bowl, but I don't know that I'm going to keep these like this. This is probably something that I will disassemble and maybe keep a couple of them, but I don't know that I need a whole big jar or a whole big dish of this, especially a dish that's this pretty. My mom used to work at Tiffany. I have another little, here's another little one that I keep the glass in. This was gifted to me. That's a shell from Hawaii. So those two, I don't know. So we'll see. More tinies. These are nice because you can touch them. They're very accessible. Look at that little cardita. So just small, no rhyme or reason. And then we also have my operculums that I collected from Honeymoon Island. So those, very fun. I do like those. I would love to go back and get more. They're just really fun. Oh, you know, if you're a collector, you know, just the hunt is so fun. And then this is this beautiful candy dish. Again, smaller shells. Anything in here, it was more a small to medium size. So it was just the smaller things. And this is a Tiffany candy dish. So I do think this is I think this is really beautiful. And plus it's nice that it has a lid, so the dusting, I don't have to, you only have to dust the outside, which is kind of nice. All right, let's see what else I have to share. Okay, this next collection, you might have seen this before. This is my scallop tower. So I've tried, kind of like potato chips, to put the really colorful ones on the outside. I think I've gone through this before. I could probably go through it again, but for now, I have my scallop tower. This is my West Coast shells. These I got diving. So I consider those to be West Coast shells. Oh, I have to admit, so this is a Caribbean vase, and honestly, I have absolutely no idea where it came from. I did not find it. I realize it is a East Coast shell, so it is put where it's supposed to be. I have no idea where that came from. I did find one diving, that's outside though, so I don't know. Sometimes that happens. I have some shells that show up in my collection and I have no idea where it came from. But this is, in here, there's be Scotch bonnets, lion's paws, scaly scallops. So those are the East Coast shells. This random bunch of beautiful shells. No, I have no rhyme or reason. Just kind of liked them like that. So that's how they are. This I'm starting with exclusively crown conchs, obviously. And I like the container because, again, the dusting. I'm starting to get a little more interested in containers that have lids. Look at these. So these are some gorgeous ponies. So this one, clearly I decided to leave the Periostracum on. So this was probably collected the most recently because previously I would absolutely bleach everything. Everything would have the periostracum removed. And it looks really beautiful that way too. I mean, look at this one. That is beautiful. But I don't know, there's something to be said, I feel, about this version too. So as we learn and our tastes change, so sometimes I bleach them, sometimes I don't. It's just kind of how I roll. And then these are apple snails. Ram's horn snails, freshwater snails, not sea snails, except for this one, which I believe Now, I do remember where I got this from a gentleman named Larry who owned a seashell shop over on Sanibel, and I believe this is a banded Florida tree snail. Isn't that beautiful? So these are not sea snails, but I do have a couple of shells anyway. I think those are kind of fun. All right, we'll move on to the next collection of goodies. All right, here we do have a couple more that you may have seen in the past. We have my Tower of Lightning whelks. Yeah, I just went through this the other day, so this is gonna stay just the way it is. This, I don't know what to do with. These are absolutely massive angel wings. These are fantastic. I don't know that this jar is really doing them justice. So this is something I'm probably going to address at some point. Worm snails, because they're awesome. Augurs and dark serifs, just the shape and pineapples are cool. And a wood glass, I like those with shells. This is a larger candy dish, kind of like that smaller one that I had. This is just shells that are a little bit bigger. So again, based on size is kind of how I'm putting the shells in this particular container. Love the lid because, you know, the dust. And I don't know. So I made this tower. I think I used to have olives in here. I don't know that I love the alphabet cones displayed like that. I think I actually might like the cones kind of mixed in with all the other shells. So for now, it is what it is, but I may disassemble that. Now, I want to show you something that I really like. This shell is absolutely perfect because not only do I get to have a giant clam, I get to use it as a bowl for all my whites. So I used to have another bowl that my whites were in, but I have converted this fabulous shell. So I did buy this at the Sanibel Shell Show. I typically don't buy shells. I typically am a self-collector. That's just kind of how I like to roll, but there are a couple of exceptions. So in here, lots of baby's ears. I do put those in there. A couple of exceptionally spiky, spiny jewel boxes, some white-ish or white. Now, so something like this, so this is an albino conch. I got this from Allie from SWFL Shell Guide. So at the end of her tours, she allows people to pick shells out. And that's one I picked. I know which ones I have found. So I do love this. So these are my whites. I do think that's kind of pretty. And then I have, okay. Let's talk about fighting conchs. So yes, when I'm on the beach, I'm not kidding. I really do have a problem with the fighting conchs. So these are just ones that I can't resist. I think they're absolutely beautiful. It could be sometimes they're patterned, sometimes they're striped, sometimes they're a little bit pinkish. I don't know if that's the one. Look at that with that purple stripe. Oh, it's just beautiful. So those are just beautiful. Those are just beautiful. These though, these are very, very special. These are my very, very special fighting conchs. Look at how glorious. It's got stripies on the knobs. So every now and then there will be one of these. Okay, so that's one I collected. It's great, but it's not, you know, from a specimen standpoint, it could be a little better. Again, with this one, it's wonderful, but that's why I have that other one. Now look at this one. Look at how gorgeous that is. So there's also some albinistic, but check this one out. So just the different coloring, how it was orange and with the stripes on it, I just thought that was really beautiful. And then we have, oh, that was rather dirty. Oh, yeah, but I'm gonna make an exception. Look at how stunning that is. Same with this one. And even though it's a little bit, you know, yeah, it's not perfect, I cannot get over that pattern. That's beautiful. And then are some of the albinistic that just are so okay. So it's obvious. I get, you know, like as I'm sitting here talking about these shells, yeah, I really do have a thing for the fighting conchs. I just think they're so pretty and fun. This one's pretty big. That's a pretty big one. It's shiny and spiky. So yeah, I do love my fighting conchs. These are all albinistic. Look at how beautiful that is. Just so pretty. So those are my fighting conchs. I absolutely love them. Now I found a pretty cool container, and it's my favorite thing right now. But before we get to that, I'll explain why I have a couple of half empty containers. So I do have a couple of containers which are not full at this point. I'm just working on this one. I've decided I want to put all of my colorful moon snails in this particular container. I don't know that I'm going to like it or not, kind of like the alphabet cones, we'll see. And then I have these beautiful containers, but they're, yeah, they're not full right now. I'm not using them because the shells that were in there, I have transferred to a different container, which is my most favorite one at this point. So I thought this was brilliant. Get one giant floor vase, and I was able to fit tons of my collection in this one container that doesn't take up a lot of room. So I was just thrilled with this. I kind of started on another one. I have another floor vase like this. You might have seen it next to the cabinet I had. I got a couple in the bottom, but oh, I just delighted with that. And then above that, I do still have that shell mirror that I created. So yep, that's still here too. Now I also have this cabinet, and right now I really just kind of have things thrown in there. I would like to kind of decorate and have this look a little bit prettier. So eventually I'm going to get to that. I do have this, a couple of the bigger shells I just kind of keep in there. And then I do have a second one of those huge vases. So I'm kind of working on that. There's a couple of big old shells in there, but it makes my heart sing knowing that I have something that's not going to take up a whole lot of room, but I'm going to be able to store a whole bunch of shells. So I absolutely like the idea. Love those containers. So I do allow myself one bin of shells that I've put to the side. At some point I thought I was going to have an orange project. But so these are shells that I just couldn't, you know, if I hold it like that, I can maybe put that on a mirror. Who knows what I could do with it. So there's just little things I've kind of just put to the side. I have no idea. I think that that's horseshoe crabs. So some other shells. So that's it. I just tossed these to the side. So that's it. That's the only container I allow myself to have. And otherwise I bring the shells back to the beach or I sort them. And then this is the system that I use when I'm going to sell them on Etsy. So I kind of have them like in little containers and stored and whatnot. And then I put them together and I sell them on Etsy. So I do have a little bit, I'm a little behind. I definitely need to get some of these up on Etsy, and I'll get to it eventually. But so this is how they're sorted, and this sits in my office. I am constantly surrounded by seashells. Now, not every single shell that I bring home actually makes it either for sale on Etsy or into my collection, in which case I have, it's kind of a lame system, but I have these buckets out here, and then eventually I bring these shells back to the beach. Those I actually just brought back to the beach yesterday. And just in case you were curious, yeah, I do have a couple other things out here on my shell station. I'm drawing some urchins. I have my horse conch and then those queens. Now you may remember this is back in 2023. I found some seahorses, and I found a couple of seahorses, and I did keep 3 of them, and finally I had them mounted. So the 2 on the left, the lighter ones, those are from Sanibel. The one on the right I found on KO Costa. So yeah, those are very, very special to me. And I also have this. Now some people may celebrate. Now I celebrate, but I celebrate with these glasses, not with champagne glasses. So these, I like to call these seashell chalices. And these were gifted to me for Christmas from my kids. And I thought those were kind of fun, and you might like to see those too. So for now, that's my seashell collection. It is constantly changing. I am moving things around. I'm kind of, I guess, trying to perfect it. So for now, I'm having a great time with these shells. I hope that answers a couple of questions that you may have. Maybe it inspires a couple of things. If you have any suggestions for me, by all means, leave me a comment. I do read all the comments. So thank you very much, and I'll see you on Sunday.